Welcome to In the Loop, a podcast from Plus One Robotics that spans the learning gap between warehouse automation and the technology that is driving the robotics industry. Learn from experts in industrial automation on how the supply chain is transforming as industry leaders explain their contributions to the robotics ecosystem. Listen in and stay in the loop, powered by Plus One Robotics.
Hello, everybody. This is Brent Barcey with Plus One Robotics. Welcome to the In the Loop podcast. We're here today with Tompkins Robotics Chief Executive Officer, Mike Futch. Mike, thanks for coming in.
Brent, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here at the Plus One offices, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, all the way from sunny Orlando, Florida.
It's a little warmer there today than it is here.
Yeah. You know, I moved down here from Detroit to South Central Texas, and it's 45 degrees today, so I wasn't planning on that, but here we are nonetheless. So thanks for coming in. So tell us a little about Tompkins. Give us a little bit of history. What do you guys do? Where are you from? All that kind of stuff.
Well, Tompkins Robotics is essentially a robotic sortation system that uses AMRs to sort items to fulfill your e-commerce orders, items to restock the shelves, items and returns. And it can also do parcel shipping and sortation, either in a hub for a carrier or the outbound dock area for a shipper. And so our core business is around robotic AMR sortation.
So what's an AMR?
Autonomous mobile robot.
Okay.
And our little robots, some people call them our yellow minions and other things, but they're yellow and black. And if anyone wants to go to our website, they can check out and see videos of them.
Yeah, so we're going to be announcing a strategic partnership pretty soon here. After this, probably before this podcast airs, but we're doing some robot-to-robot activity. That's what we're going to market with. Let's talk a little bit about the solutions. And you know, there's small sorts. There's all types of different things going on today within these warehouses, and we're all going on some of what we call the big six at Plus One. Talk a little bit about how your solution comes into play when it comes to how does this work? I mean, do you use conveyance versus Bombay sorters? All the things that are out there that people are talking about today. Where does Tompkins fit into this marketplace, and why do people need it? Because I believe they do. I mean, from a flexible standpoint, but I'd like to hear your take on where it fits in the warehouse.
Well, if we didn't believe in working together, we wouldn't be doing it. So,
good point.
When you think about sortation, it can go anywhere from the realm of a put wall, where items are delivered to a human who walks up and down a put wall and puts items into that, to a high-end sortation system like a tilt tray or a cross belt. And there are some in between, slide trays, Bombays, et cetera. And so all of those systems of the past, and by the way, those have been around for decades. Those systems are all bolted to the floor, have hardwired electrical, sprinklers, they're inflexible, there's a long lead time, and they're expensive. So by using AMRs and having a fleet of autonomous vehicles do what those larger systems of the past do, you reduce lead time, you reduce complexity, your flexibility goes up big time. They're modular, scalable, even portable. Our system can be picked up and moved to another building across town over a weekend. And so it's a very...
Now, how can you do that from a permitting standpoint? I mean, we do a lot of global rollouts today with big customers, and you know, the permitting and all the things that go into a general contractor having to really make sure this thing goes off with a hitch, there's unions involved a lot of times. How do you do that from a permitting standpoint, just to be able to pick something up and take it across town?
We haven't had a single system installed that required permits.
Okay.
So the systems go in, everything is on wheels that rolls off trucks and hooks together. And so it's been classified as a mobile piece of equipment at every single site in the U.S. and Canada.
So that definitely helps with install and lead time. I mean, that cuts it down drastically with regard to somebody who has to plan from a supply chain standpoint to get this thing into the building, and all the things that takes from a GC standpoint, I would think.
Oh, definitely. So lead time's reduced, cost is reduced. If you want to add some sortation points or you want to add an induction station, you bring them off a truck, you put them in place without cutting the system off. There is no downtime. And you just go to the screen and configure those elements and turn them on.
Now, from a technology standpoint, are you guys LiDAR-based, radar-based? Are you using a grid on the floor? How does that come about?
We have a patented navigation system where these tiles that are about 1/4 of an inch thick lay across the surface, and there's a navigation grid in those tiles.
Okay.
And so the robots can go around other robots, but they always are following that grid.
Okay.
And typically our systems are 1, 2, 3, 4 levels tall. And so you have these grids on every level, and the robots are running their paths.
So throughput's it's not a buzz term. That's what we live and die by in this industry. What are people looking for from a throughput standpoint? You versus the conventional way of doing things. How do you stack up?
Well, the beauty of our system, because it's all modular, we can go in the back room of a retail store and do a really small system.
Okay.
Or we can go into a 1.5 million square foot distribution center and do a really large system, much like a tilt tray or a cross belt. So it's scalable, and it just has more or less robots, more or less divert locations, more or less inductions. And we can do automated induction, like we're talking about doing with your firm, and what we have actually working in your lab.
Yep.
And we can do manual induction. As far as the systems of the past, these traditional systems I've been talking about, when we deploy our technology, it'll fit anywhere in the supply chain. It can be portable and moved, but it's also scalable, modular, which gives a lot of flexibility that traditional automation has not provided to many customers. And that flexibility is key in today's environment with all the dynamic things going on, with order changings, channel changes, customer profiles changing. We live in a very dynamic world. I mean, just look at what's happening with world politics and everything else. It's a very dynamic environment. COVID, e-commerce growth, everything that's happened here in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, you mentioned kind of a smaller footprint, and I know the folks in Bentonville are all in on micro-fulfillment. Just read a study that came out that $10 billion is going to be spent in the next 3 years just in the micro-fulfillment space. Talk about that. Talk about, where Tompkins fits into that micro-fulfillment area, because we're hearing people are starting to lease or take over old Sears and Roebuck stores in July for peak season. Like, how does Tompkins fit into that? Because if you with a modular solution like that, I would think it would fit in pretty well, right?
Well, we believe so.
Yeah.
And we have 2 micro-fulfillment customers right now, and we have others in contract negotiation. But most of the people that are talking about micro-fulfillment right now, they're talking about ASRS, or automated storage and retrieval systems.
Okay.
And there's a group of firms that do that. And some of these firms came from the warehousing industry. Some are new startups that just are doing micro-fulfillment.
And what is the industry definition of micro-fulfillment for somebody who might be listening from a grocery chain, right? Like, a smaller grocery chain, what is a micro-fulfillment? What does that mean to the average Joe and Jane?
Well, hyper-local fulfillment.
Okay.
So order fulfillment in the hyper market.
Okay.
And so when we're talking about that could be the back room of a store or a super center or a mall anchor or something like that.
Okay.
It could be a dark store where customers can drive up and get curbside service, and also you fulfill home for delivery in a local market. It can even be an urban environment where you take an old office building that's 5 stories tall and you put receiving, shipping, and order fulfillment on the ground floor, and use freight elevators moving up and down to bring the inventory into storage and out of storage on the other 4 floors.
Okay.
So imagine downtown Chicago, downtown New York. You could actually put a micro-fulfillment system in a building like that.
Okay. Interesting.
Now we also consider micro-fulfillment to be last mile sortation hubs, because you're getting down to within 5-10 miles of the end delivery point, and you could have a process or a facility that's doing sortation of packages and goods and orders going to those homes.
You mentioned lead times earlier, and I want to go back to that. I mean, lead times for everything. IPCs, industrial arms, everything has gone up. I'm assuming yours has as well, but stacking up against whether it's a bond-based order or general conveyance, how do you guys stack up on lead times today? If somebody comes to Tompkins and say, you know what, this is what we need, when can I get it? Because that's the first thing that people ask us. Yeah, this is great. When can you install, right?
Interestingly enough, we were saying 6 months in 2020.
Okay.
We're still saying 6 months.
Okay.
From contract to go live. And how do we do that? Well, what we've done is we've added a lot of vendors. So we have more vendors than we had back then. So we can, without overstressing their capacity, we can spread it out among more vendors. We also have better buying clout now,
right?
Because of the volume we're doing. And so therefore we have more control over those suppliers. The biggest problem we've had right now is the lead time for anything that's coming from overseas,
right?
Because of the water transport.
Yep.
But we're ordering in advance in anticipation of orders to make that not be an issue.
So I know we've got a demo in our customer experience center right now, and we're taking this demo up to Modex. We're all really excited about the robot to robot application. We know that there's a need for this in the marketplace. Talk about the application that's on our floor today and how this is gonna. We think this is gonna fit into the marketplace. What are people going to see at Modex when they come to the Plus One booth?
Well, first off, they're going to see your technology, picking up parcels, items, putting them onto our T-sort robot, and then the T-sort robot sorts it to a destination. And it's a very small system, just to give people the concept so they can understand and appreciate it. But with the leading edge technology that you guys have, to be able to grasp those products, those packages in a high-speed manner and put them onto our robots, which flow by in a high-speed manner, is really game-changing because of the speed at which that system can leverage your technology and ours and do higher volume processes is really going to light the market up, I think.
You say speed. What throughput do we think that a dual arm system can get on this system? When somebody comes to our booth at Modex, they're going to go, "Yep, I need that. How many packages can you sort for me in an hour?" What do we think the throughput's going to be?
Well, I believe it's going to be 2,500 or north of that.
Yep.
For a dual arm system.
Yep.
And then you can put that's just one induction.
Right.
Feeding our robots. So now imagine you put 4 induction stations with a dual arm. The T-sorts just flow in and out of those locations. Now you're at 10,000. There's no reason, our system scales up, so there's no reason why we can't add more inductions with your technology and our robots picking up the product and 10, 20, 30,000. We actually have a site that's doing 36,000 an hour right now.
And how many sort locations is that for 36,000 an hour?
That system has 1,700 sort destinations. Imagine trying to do that with the traditional technology of the past.
It's not happening. No.
Well, we actually have one site that has 2,700.
Really?
Yes.
And how big of a footprint is so from a Tompkins standpoint, are you able to disclose how many bots that takes or how big of a footprint that takes for you?
That particular system that has 2,700 sort points has 344 robots.
Okay.
And I believe it's roughly 32,000 square feet.
Wow, it's not as big as I would have thought for that many.
Well,
for that many
if you did it with the traditional sortation where you have the big chutes coming down,
right,
with a big snaking sorter, it would be 4 times that.
So talk about that a little bit. That's a good point because a lot of people are from a brownfield and a greenfield standpoint. Are you obviously greenfields are the easiest for us to do, but from a brownfield perspective, how does that work if somebody says, you know what, we really think we need to do this? Is it painful to get into a brownfield situation? I know a lot of times it is for all of us, but when it comes to really scaling up Tompkins, how does it work in a brownfield building?
It's a little more complicated, the whole scheduling, precedent, and everything that has to happen and coordinating everything.
Right.
But, over 50% of our installs are brownfield.
Okay.
We go into an existing operation. And the client may be replacing the system where we do it in a phased approach to tear out and replace, or it could be they free up some space and we just go in. But brownfields, if it's planned and managed correctly with both the resources on the client side and our side and any other suppliers that are participating, there's no difference in the lead time, 6 months.
Now, how about from a footprint standpoint, going with their traditional sortation methodology? And you guys, are you a third or are you 50% of the footprint? Do you have an idea of how much space? Because real estate is expensive inside those 4 walls, right? Everybody needs as much space as they possibly can get because they're trying to get as much product out the door. Where do you guys fit in that respect of your competition?
Well, traditional sortation systems, like I've been talking about, they typically are anywhere from 3 times to 2 times the space consumed. And it's because of what I just said a moment ago, these long chutes coming down and the spread between the sortation track and where the end point of the order fulfillment takes place at the bottom of these chutes. And so because of induction platforms, the chutes coming down, the way the systems are always a big loop or a snaking conveyor loop system, they take up a lot more space. Now, it depends on the system as well. A Bombay type sorter that does more of a straight down sort will not take up as much space as a tilt tray or a cross belt. And so it really depends upon the type of system we're talking about. But normally we're somewhere between half to a third of the space of traditional sortation.
Half to the third of the space and around 6 months lead time. So it's
And we're less expensive. And we're more flexible.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sold. I got you in here. You don't have to sell me anymore.
And a shorter lead time.
Yeah, right.
I could throw a couple more darts at the board
I'm
if you
telling
like.
you. No, that's what we're supposed to do here.
And by the way, Brent, because of these types of features of this technology and the way it can scale up with your business, we've gone past the piloting and first site install with a lot of customers now. We have one customer that's under contract for 7 systems right this minute that are in process or already installed, with a 23 total site rollout that they're planning to do. So this is exciting times for us. We're actually hitting that point where people are doing mass rollout of our technology across multiple sites, as opposed to just doing a first pilot. And I know you guys are familiar with doing a pilot, and then you start escalating up.
Yeah, and we're also familiar with pilot purgatory, right? Because a lot of times things just get stuck in pilot mode, and the end users, from our experience today, and I know talking to you in the past, the same with you, that they expect us, the technology holders, to be the ones to go in and get this installed. So that's a good point that you're bringing up. If I see this in Plus One's booth, and I go to Tompkins' booth at Modex, how do I buy this? I mean, I've got a warehouse management system I got to tie into this thing. I'm looking at an articulated arm. I'm tying into it. Plus One software, your bots, your tables. Like, how in the heck am I going to buy this thing once I decide, yep, I need that for my building?
Well, that's a multifold, multifaceted type of question. So many times when we do our first install for a customer, they want to just do a one-off and do a simple interface through an API with their WMS or their ERP or whatever is the inventory controlling and order controlling system they have. If they're doing an installation where there's your technology, for example, and our technology, then they can contract us separately. They can contract us together. We have installations where we've supplied some lower level conveyor along with robotic pick and place, such as Plus One technology, and our system. If they're doing a really large system, think of an auto store, for example, or a large sorting system, all of these different elements in a single building, we're not typically integrating that stuff, and neither are you.
No.
But the large integration people can do that. There's a lot of people out there like that. We're personally partners with Bastion Solutions and Keeker Pulse and Conveco, where we have contractual agreements with them where they can be a reseller of our technology. And we're also in conversation with some other firms. But if it's a large integrated system with a lot of elements, then we probably need to go with an integrator. And in all situations, you're going to need a warehouse execution system,
right?
If you're going to be integrating multiple elements or complementary robotic solutions. So we have a warehouse execution system that we interface with a variety of WMS, other WES, and ERP systems. And when you go with a large integrator, they always have their own warehouse execution system.
Yep. So, I mean, it sounds like your experience is very similar to ours, is where they want you guys to do the pilot. Once you get through pilot season and they're okay with it, then they really want one throat to choke. It's okay to deal with Plus One. It's okay, you guys and everybody else. But then they, more often than not, I'm assuming they bring in someone like the Keekers and the Bastions of the world and saying, okay, you're going to roll all this technology up and you're the one responsible. You're the one holding the paper. Everything's going to go through you. That tends to be the way these things are working for us anyways. I'm assuming that's your case as well.
Excuse me. Brent, you're exactly right.
Okay.
If it's a larger, complicated rollout with a lot of different elements, they want an integrator to be in charge of it.
We do too.
Yeah. I don't want to take control of all the stuff that I'm not good at.
No. And they do it faster, cheaper. They just that's their skill set, and I prefer the integrators to do the rollout, and we stick with the pilots. I'm with you 100% on that.
Yeah, we our integration partners, they are currently, around 20% of our total volume that we're selling.
Okay,
I see that changing over time, and becoming more and more the path that the majority of our sales come from down the road, but not right now. Right now, most of our sales are direct.
Awesome. All right, so looking ahead, we've got 2022. Can't believe we're already at the end of first quarter, but we're getting halfway through to 2022, 2023. What are you seeing? Like I said, we know there's going to be $10 billion spent in micro fulfillment. There's going to be a lot more warehouses going up in the country. Where do you see Tompkins fitting in? How do you see this whole roll up happening?
I think you're going to see become more and more prevalent that people are combining technologies. For example, we have 4 installations going on right now where the AutoStore pick board is 1 inch away from the T-sort table, and the person's picking out, putting onto the T-sort from the pick boards. We see more and more integrations like we're doing, where robotic induction is working with technology, whether that be a traditional sorter or our type of technology.
Right.
You're going to see more and more robotic automation as opposed to traditional automation. These, if I was at a conveyor company, I would kind of wonder about the long-term future, 10, 20 years from now. I don't think traditional automation from the 70s is really going to survive the next 10, 15, 20 years.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But you mentioned, I mean, really the reason this partnership came to play is Tompkins came to us. They're doing all these installs. Their customer base is having labor problems like everybody else, right? So it's like, how do we robotically induct this stuff? Because we're doing a great job. We're getting all these sortation points, but they don't have the people to do it, right? So I do see more and more opportunity for robot to AMR, robot to AGV, whatever you want to call it, but robot to robot interaction going. The labor shortage in this country is not going to get better over the next couple of years. It's just not. The warehousing space that's being built, more automation needs to happen. There's going to be upskilling, and I think that's a great thing about the partnership with us anyways, is that, we talked about Yonder, the Yonder product. People are now taking people off the floor and they're putting them as crew chiefs, and they're sitting behind the computer and running these robots, or they're wrenching on the robots. They're doing different things other than just taking a package, scanning it, and throwing it onto a T-sort, right? That's what I think the end user community wants to be able to do, to be able to retain these employees, because not only are they having a tough time getting them, but the turnover rates in these buildings are nuts, right? So I do see the 2022, 2023 ROI is not so much. It's funny how just in the last 2 years, how it's changed. It was all ROI driven, and now it's, I got to get my product out the door. How can I do this efficiently? I don't have people to do it. Still looking at ROI, they're always going to beat you up on pricing, right? But at the end of the day, if you're going to compete, you gotta automate, and that shift has happened, I'd say, in the last year, where I haven't really noticed people looking at this needs to be 2x or 3x. It's just like, how many packages can I get out the door to my customer base? So that's kind of where I see things going, and I think with technology like yours, it's just the fact that you're that flexible too. I mean, there's so much you can do from a micro fulfillment standpoint, and standing up a warehouse in July to compete for peak. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's exciting times. People ask me my background. It was not robotics until a few years ago, but I'm having the greatest time of my career right now. It's a lot of fun. It's very exciting. It's very dynamic, and there's a lot of change, just coming up with new ideas. We have a new robot called Exchange that we're going to unveil at Modex. And that machine will actually automate the exit side of sortation.
Okay.
So when the container's full or the e-commerce order is complete, this robot will pick up the container and shove an empty back in place, so the sortation keeps going. We're partnering with firms such as Plus One, which is really exciting. I'm really happy and excited about what we're going to be showing at Modex. That's going to be really cool for what we're going to have in your booth.
You made a comment as we're wrapping up here. You made a comment to me last night when you first saw the Tompkins robot. You had what was it? It was something. It was a commercial. The Jet.com.
My head exploded.
Yeah, right. So no, I think that's we're in a really cool industry right now, and that's just changing every single day. And I love it. I don't know. I know you do too, because every time I see you, you're always selling to somebody or trying. You're on your soapbox like me. I get it. I mean,
yeah,
that's
I'm
part
being
of the gig.
evangelical, telling them about
That's okay.
This is where the future's going.
You got to baptize them. But I really appreciate you coming in. I feel like this was educational to people listening. I hope you got a kick out of it. And please come see Tompkins at Modex. Come see Plus One at Modex. Again, thanks to Mike for coming in from Tompkins, and we look forward to seeing you soon for our next guest. Thank you so much.
Stay in the loop. Powered by +1 Robotics.